Never taking it too seriously. Life's too short. Got to have fun. Welcome back. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox, here with my guest, Jane Miller Rennert. Jane Rennert.
Yes.
Jane Miller Rennert.
Either
Jane
one.
Miller, whatever.
It's fine.
Be who you want. You can be who you want. It's radio.
I know.
Be who you want. So you wanted to talk about the community that you've put these businesses up in, and not just the businesses themselves,
Right.
which I think is really important. And prior to that, what did you do? What led you up? Because a lot of what you've done has been in regards to hospitality, food and beverage, and events. Where, like, post college, like your career, what did you study in school?
I studied developmental psychology, which is really interesting, and family. Like child psychology and family interrelationship stuff, which is really interesting.
We'll get to that at the end.
I now have a job, and I work for a family therapy institute, and specifically the Gender and Family Project, which works around gender inclusivity and supporting transgender and gender.
So you just took a little hiatus.
So it's really interesting that I've come.
You were like, to family psychologist, gotta eat. I got good in restaurants. That's like me. Like I got good in restaurants because I studied music. But musicians gotta eat.
Right.
So how did it kind of start and lead up to you owning your own businesses in food and beverage?
Yeah. So right out of college, I worked in restaurants. That's what I did. I was a waitress at a few places in New York. And I started to sort of enjoy that. And I really enjoyed kind of food service and started getting into wine and, all that other things and that kind of life. And then I wound up getting a job at the New York Restaurant School, which is now defunct. And I took a pastry class while I was there because we could take classes for free, which was really fun. It was like,
what were you doing there?
I was doing alumni placement. So I've always worked in like interpersonal connecty ways, like a lot of what I've done has been about, working with different groups of people and connecting them and making those connections. And a lot of it's like sort of intuitive and interpersonal stuff, which I guess I'm good at. I don't know. So that's what I was doing. So I was like working with their alumni, helping them to find jobs. I knew I sort of knew the ethos of the restaurant business. And so a lot of these were restaurant jobs. Sometimes they were, corporate dining or things like that. So I worked there for a couple years. I actually met Elliot while I was there, my husband. He was doing their like restaurant management program, and he managed restaurants for many years, like high-end sommelier, general manager type places in New York, before doing what he's doing now. But anyway, so then I went from there, and I took like a real leap of faith, and I went and worked at the James Beard Foundation on a freelance basis. Back then, that's how everyone worked there.
Right.
It's like a bunch of freelancers in a room. And that was a really incredible experience. So I was writing, I was doing event planning. I just loved that world so much. And then while I was there, I met a lot of incredible people, one of whom is my friend Siobhan, and we started an event planning company together. So, and we kept James Beard as a client.
So that was really your first thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And kept James Beard as a client. And actually, I left the event planning business, but Siobhan now works as the vice president of special events for James Beard.
Oh, wow.
So it's interesting. So she's come full circle too.
Yeah.
I might be getting the title a little bit wrong, but yeah. And so, so I went and worked there for a few years. And that was really great. Then I took a long break where I was doing freelance work with Siobhan and with other organizations doing special events. So I was like an event planner for a lot of like festivals. Like I worked on like the Foxwoods Food and Wine Festival and this big festival called Flavor Napa Valley I worked on for 2 or 3 years. I worked on one in Atlantic City where I was doing like, all planning different aspects of it, doing either the wine events or sometimes the food event. It depends. I was just hired as an event planner. I worked on the New York City Wine and Food Festival for years as a freelancer. I did all their wine seminars, and then I did a couple bigger events and then some smaller dinners. Like there's like tons of events that are part of that. So there's like a whole crew of event planners who work on that. So I was taking a break in the sense that I didn't have a job, but I was doing a lot of freelance work all through those
forging
years.
your own path was never an issue for you. You were like, hey, I'm going to
all
figure this
through
out.
those years.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in there, I started to open the businesses too. And the great thing about freelancing and having your own businesses is that you can make those things work together because you have a lot of flexibility. So I was able to sort of make those things work together. And then I always stepped away from the day-to-day operations of the businesses once they were sort of, you know, sort of up and running. And that's kind of where you came into the picture in a way. But
I think that's also very quintessential to entrepreneurship, is your ability to build a business that can sustain itself without your daily involvement.
Right.
So that one, you can either continue to grow that business in other ways, open another business, do the same thing, and also just pursue some of your own passions. And I think if you're not doing that, Sam and I have talked about this at length. If, you know, there's the idea of working at your company, working for your company.
Right. And that's, you know, and that's very true. Yeah. And you need to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. Right. There's the E-Myth, that book.
I love it. I love the E-Myth.
Yeah. And they talk about that a lot. Yeah. But I do want to say, I want to get back to something we were talking about in the break, because I think it's important.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like a lot of people who talk about entrepreneurship or, you know, whatever, having good ideas, and making something that's, you know, both financially or somehow, you know, successful in some way, there's a way that I think we as a culture value or put a lot of emphasis on individual achievement. Mm-hmm. And what I was saying before is like not being risk averse and having a good idea about, you know, kind of business that would succeed. I don't want to give myself a whole lot of credit for that. There's a lot of things that, you know, sort of systemic societal things that made me able to take these risks, you know? So it's not that I'm some special person necessarily.
Well, you are.
But no, but I mean, I feel like there are systems that, like, I don't know. I just had a community. Like you said, I had a community around me that I felt would help me. So if I lost if I lost some money or I was in a tight spot, like there were people that I felt like I could count on to help me out. And that is a huge thing that not a lot of people have. Or not everyone has, I should say. And so that it's really important to remember that it's not like individuals who are necessarily so successful. It's having good ideas and executing them well, but it's also having like the systemic privilege to be able to pursue them.
Yeah.
And so I definitely had that in a lot of different ways. So I just want to be clear about that.
And all the way down even to your staff.
Yeah.
You know, like if you
like
don't
you can't hand it off and not like what you were saying is like being able to sort of hand it off and let other people kind of take the reins. You can only do that if you have the good luck of having Jeremiah be the person that's handling the day-to-day, who, you know, is, and having that communication and being able to feel confident that that things are going to go well. So there's a lot of that, and not sides. Everybody, and then also, I mean, not every business has the ability to pay a good staff. You know what I mean? So like, that's another thing. It's like, we were fortunate enough to have enough coming in to pay good people to be there, you know, and stay for years and years.
But you've also, especially, you know, you and I have had this discussion a lot about employee pay and how much you value that they, like, you should be able to take care of that. It should not be a minimum wage gig. Even if it's minimum wage skills, you've always given the staff the benefit of the doubt. You've always, like, more so than I wanted to, you're like, no, we should do this. And I've learned from that and I've put it in.
And I wish it could be more.
Sure.
I mean, honestly, like
but I have to say that I learned that lesson from you, because I grew up under, you know, I came up in the business community and there are people who were like, pay the bare minimum, you know, unless there's that one person that really stands out, like you take care of them, but everybody else. And you took a different approach. And once I started to put it into practice, there were obvious benefits to it. You know, obviously, no, everybody didn't work out, but a lot of the people, after taking that approach, it paid back so much.
It does.
And it really shifted my my thinking in terms of that. And that was something only you kind of put in on my radar. But what's funny is, since you did that, I started to hear, like, more kind of prolific and famous business people talk about that. And I'm like, oh, well, you did that. I started doing it because of you. They're doing that. They're saying, no, you get results this way. I'm like, okay, this is a move in the right direction. Instead of thinking about pennies, thinking more of the long term and taking care of people and just like removing, like you said, not patting yourself on the back too much and saying like, this is me, rah, rah, rah. It's like, this is us. I'm going to fold you all in. Hopefully one day, I get what I want too. But really, like, you always stress that to me, like, take care of them first. And then, think about yourself later.
And I hope we do that. I don't know, I mean, it's hard.
We do, and we're getting better. But it's something that it is hard. And it's something you always have to chisel away at. And anytime you add one thing, it's coming from somewhere else. So you just have to negotiate that and make sure you're dotting your T's and crossing your I's.
The other way.
I know. Yeah, this is my new thing. That's how I'm saying it now because it engages people.
And nobody writes with a pen and paper anymore anyway. So it's not like you
even
have to
when
worry
I
about
do, it's really bad. All right, we're going to take one more short break. We'll be back with you in a few minutes. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web.